Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of Wellness Wednesdays with Mindful Nurses. My name is Claudia Wong. I am a nurse practitioner, yoga teacher, and co-founder of Mindful Nurses, along with Janelle Smith. And we hold weekly Wellness Wednesday sessions. The purpose of our weekly Wellness Wednesday sessions is to promote self-care and well-being for nurses. And we like to do this in a holistic manner as well. We know that nurses do so much to take care of others, and we wanted to make sure nurses take care of themselves also. So today I'm really excited to have Janna Thomason talk about the Enneagram. So if you guys have never heard about this, I've only heard about it maybe a few years ago, but it's a wonderful tool, kind of like the Myers-Briggs, where it looks at your personality type. And knowing that, you can take steps to work with your specific personality type and become successful in different things like your relationships and work, life. So it's a process of self-discovery, honesty, and Janna's gonna, talk us through that too. It's a wonderful tool to use if you guys haven't used it already. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Janna, and your story is very interesting as well, and how you got introduced to this tool and how you've used it for nurses. You can tell us more.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Janna Thomason, and I am with the Enneagram Nurse, and I have been a nurse for 22 years in all sorts of different areas, critical care, recovery room, nursing informatics, nursing professional development, and recently transitioned to a new role. But I found the Enneagram about 4 or 5 years ago after I had really experienced really hard times. I had been working hard as a nurse, and my dad had come to live with us and then passed away. My husband had stage 4 cancer. My daughter was struggling with depression. And once we made it kind of over that hump, I knew I was, I like to say, crusty. I needed to do something for me. And so I happened upon a book about the Enneagram, and it really led me down a beautiful path to finding myself, thinking about who I am, what I like to do. It allowed me to kind of put my head up and not just survive, but actually start to thrive. And I didn't even really know what that was. And so it took me down a road of discovering who I was. And I found great joy and happiness and enlightenment and just a lighter being. And I started to enjoy things more. I realized that it was time for me to move on. And so I transitioned my day job. I work for a software company as an informatics nurse, but I also help nurses kind of discover who they are. I mean, we're not programmed to know how to do this. And the Enneagram is just one tool that can help with that.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad you discovered this tool so you can share it with us. It's really important to, I think the first step is just being aware of your tendencies and your overall disposition.
Yeah, I mean, the Enneagram is a personality, a spiritual and psychological personality tool that there's 9 different, what I like to call lenses. And the Enneagram doesn't really put you, I know lots of people don't want to be put into a number or a box, but it really allows you to kind of help discover who you are so you can become the real authentic you. Over the years, we put on layers of adaptive behavior, and the Enneagram kind of allows us to shed some of those and become our true authentic self, who we created to be, and our the goodness of ourselves.
Great. And you have a real life process.
Yeah, so the real life process is a framework using the tool of the Enneagram. And so it's like the Enneagram on wheels. So you figure out your number, well, then what do you do with it? So the Enneagram, the real life process in the Enneagram uses a framework to kind of guide you along a path towards the best version of yourself. It looks at knowing your real self through the Enneagram, through things like your needs and values, kind of developing what you want in your life, like 3 to 5 years ahead, how you can move forward, and taking small action steps, like figuring out your areas of focus. If like adventure is important to you, you could work on kind of deciding what adventure looks like to you, and making small steps towards that. It also really looks at making sure that you're doing things for yourself, as simple as making your dentist appointments, like pre-deciding your dentist appointments and your hair appointments, and getting those on the calendar because they're important and they are good for your self-care. And then moving towards living like a really great life where you can also rest and renew and review. So that's the framework of the real life process.
Yeah, that's great, because I took Enneagram, questionnaires that I found online, but it didn't really give like, steps beyond like your possible personality type. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you a way to grow. I mean, a path to growth. So you can look at some of maybe the adaptive things and how you can learn to change that. I have some slides that we'll go through, and it kind of talks about how you can live holistically or in harmony by accessing the head, the heart, and the gut centers of intelligence. So we'll kind of cover that in a second.
okay. Yeah, and just over time and just feeling into what I really need in the moment, things like that, I've learned to just connect more with my body and what it's telling me. Previously, I just like wasn't aware of those things, so it's in hearing about the connections that you're talking about, the mind, heart, body.
Yeah. So for me as a type 2, and we'll get into all of the types later, but for me, I'm in a heart space. So all my life I've been very emotional, sensitive, feelings. I feel all the time. I feel. The beauty of it is I have been able to step out of my heart and actually into my head and look at things a little bit more objectively. I've looked at the facts. I've looked at, what are the steps and sequences I can do, and then also stepping into my body and going, does this feel right? Does it make me excited and expansive, or does it make me kind of cower down and go, not so sure? So it really does allow kind of you to give a whole self response, which is a much more healthy response to life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I guess recognizing what you primarily or instinctually respond yourself, but also like using the other parts of your body, your senses basically, to guide you to. It's great.
Yeah.
I think, you'll go over the different.
Yes. And the benefit, I think, for nurses is number one, to understand yourself, understand like what triggers you and what, where you feel that in your body. And then being able to, once we're feeling good and we're feeling whole and well, then we can heal others better. We can look at them and see what type of lens they're looking through. And it gives us grace and compassion, and ultimately making our relationships better with ourselves and others, both personally and professionally.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd love to hear about the types. And
Yeah.
I think there's one that's probably most common for nurses. I'm guessing there's one in there, the helper type. But
Yeah. I've actually seen all of them, all different types, but yeah, I know there are some that are a little bit more, I know from a young age, I wanted to help people, and I'm in that type too. And so we can kind of go through that. Okay. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Go ahead. I'd love to see
Okay, let's see. Okay. So the point of this slide is really just everybody sees differently. We all have different lenses that we view the world. So in order for us to really influence others, we have to understand that we have our own lens and that we see things differently than other people. So your lens is always going to be there, but if you're aware of your own lens and the way that you see the world, you can start to take control of your reactions and your views. So I always like to think like, I really like people and I love to people watch. And I don't know if you guys like to people watch, but think of pre-COVID, you know, in the airport or at a concert, and you start to watch people. And it's just fascinating to see maybe like what they're saying, how they're acting, what they're wearing. And you might find yourself saying, oh, I sure wouldn't, you know, dance like that, or I sure wouldn't have worn that. But since I found the Enneagram, I realized that everybody sees, thinks, reacts, and is different. And it's given me a lot of grace for people. So this is the symbol of the Enneagram. It is a 9-pointed figure that's dynamic and interconnected. Like I said before, it's a psychological and spiritual personality system that gives us knowledge about our human behaviors and our motivations. So again, some of these are really good and authentic and amazing and probably our best strengths, but other behaviors and patterns have been adapted over the years through things like fear, shame, and anger. So 9 different types, they help us understand both that good and that adaptive behavior. So once we take off that kind of that distorted lens and we develop some clarity, we can start to become more aware of how we as ourselves react and others react around us. So what can the tool of the Enneagram do? It can help us with lots of things. So the first step, of course, is self-awareness. And understanding ourselves inwardly impacts the way that we understand others, our family members, our spouses, our patients. So this allows that grace and compassion to just kind of ripple. It helps foster self-love because learning about why you do the things you do can give great perspective. It gives us mindfulness, trying to live in the present. And lastly, it leads us to healthier relationships with ourselves and with others. So I'm just going to talk really quickly, and I think everybody can relate. Even if you don't know about Enneagram, you can understand Enneagram stances. So stances in an everyday language is just how we stand or carry ourselves. It's much the same in the Enneagram. It's a posture or an attitude that's habitual, it's patterned. So think about it like this. How do you act when you walk into a room full of people? Have you ever wondered why some people talk all the time and other people are very quiet? Do you notice that somebody that is a lot more assertive or aggressive and others are passive? Some people seem to be really happy, others are more reserved. Some people like people, other people don't, say it's too people-y. So other people kind of thrive or enjoy conflict and other people run away. So that's kind of how I like to think of stances. So there is the aggressive or assertive forward stance. So these people are happy to be in charge of others. They put their agendas first. They can be seen as standing independently and at times moving against others. And they are always thinking of the future. So some of the positive characteristics can be action-oriented, direct, high energy, optimistic, persuasive. And I like to always do some famous people. So that, think of like John Wayne, Donald Trump, Oprah, Will Smith, Jack Black. You can see their energy, that forward energy. The second type is the dependent or the towards stance. And these folks are really concerned about others' expectations. They're loyal and dependable, and they are seen as moving towards others. And their time is in the present. So some of the characteristics of the dependent or towards stance, and you can even think of your patients or your coworkers as this. They are emotionally intuitive, compassionate. They're concerned for the greater good. So think of Brene Brown, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Woody Allen. Very different from your Jack Blacks. And then the last one is the withdrawing or the away stance. And these people are slow to act because they're often shy or introverted. They are seen as moving away from others, and their orientation time is to the past. But they are very self-aware, imaginative, observant, insightful, curious. Queen Elizabeth, Johnny Depp, Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates. So you can kind of see how that's different from a assertive or aggressive stance. So I always like to start here as well. So current research suggests that we as human beings have a head, a heart, and a gut center of intelligence. The gut and the heart both have a vast neural network, just like your brain. In fact, studies show that your gut and your brain can actually know things before your brain does. And I know that a previous Wellness Wednesday was on the heart math, and so it's very similar to that. The Enneagram offers us 3 centers of intelligence. So the body, the gut, and the heart. So we naturally live out of one center, though through harmony, we can have access to all 3. And that's where we really become integrated and in harmony. So I'm just going to talk really quickly about each center of intelligence, this body or gut. This is the intuitive, the anger, the doing, this action oriented. And people in this center tend to feel the world through their belly. They might say, don't trust that lady over there. Just don't trust her. And they just know. They can read the room first through their gut. They have an instinct of knowing. And they're a bit unique in that they convert lots of different emotions into anger. Anger isn't pleasant, but at least it's familiar to this type. So it might be a rumbling of anger underneath. They hold ground rather than adapt. And it's important for them to feel strong and decisive, and they have a tendency to hide all emotions. They're concerned about justice, and which is unfortunate because there's a lot of injustice in the world right now. You might hear them say, I got a feeling or I got a hunch. As a nurse, I think we're really good at this, being able to say, I just got a feeling. I feel like nurses do a really good job of tapping into their gut. They have I'm sorry.
Oh, would that, someone suffering from like IBS or GI symptoms, would they have a gut body focus at least? I don't know if they're always aware of what their body's telling them in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, completely. If maybe there is some sort of disease or something like that, yeah, I think that, and it's not necessarily like actual gut. It's just kind of that sensor, of what's right, and just that they're very dualistic, like right or wrong. They just feel it in their body. It's almost like a little vibration. Okay, so the heart center of intelligence. So they trust their heart connection more than anything else. They rely on feelings and relationships to guide them. And when that connection breaks, they maybe feel distressed and do things to regain affection and approval. Life is very focused outward for these types. They like people, and they adapt. They're concerned with image, even though that might be unconscious. One of the goals in the heart triad is to understand other people. When they give and give and give and it isn't working, they can pull away fast. And shame is the fixation in this triad. In the gut, it's anger. In the heart, it's shame. And lastly, the head center of intelligence. So this is, they are all up in their head, and they protect themselves by going to the head. From the vulnerability of heart feelings, they go to their head. So they engage the world through mental activity, knowledge, planning for contingencies. They trust reason and brain power. Sometimes they dismiss heart people as lightweights and gut people as reactionary. They live by a plan. They use strategy. They want safety. They think life is a problem that needs to be noticed, evaluated, and addressed. So I don't know if you can think of people like that in your life. All of these are great centers of intelligence, and we all need to tap into all three, but we do have a tendency to live out of one. So just a kind of a really quick recap with the gut or the body. You may hear these people say, I know. It's all about power and control. And the negative fixation is anger in the gut and body. Oops, I'm sorry. The heart is driven by feelings. It's all about approval and affection. And you might hear them say, I feel. The head is the thinking center of intelligence, and the fixation is on fear and anxiety. And you might hear them say, I think, or I think I feel. So every number is connected to these two other intelligence. Even if you maybe didn't trust that one or live into that, you have the ability to. And just being aware of that is a huge aha moment, being able to step in to a different center. You can create those new neural pathways that override those habits and those habitual reactions. So just a couple tips. So I just want to say, you can take tests out there, and they are good and they give you a guide, but you are the only person that can decide what type you are. So I think a couple things that I like to say is that, who are you at home? Who are you at age 20? Not all of the characteristics will apply, but a good majority will. The very, very best part of us can also be the worst. And we often learn by what we get wrong, not what we get right. So it's really easy to kind of type people. So you might be like, oh, that is my leader, or that's my boss. So I just want you to kind of caution you not to do that. The Enneagram, first and foremost, is knowing yourself. So I'm just going to go through a quick little blurb about each type. So type 1, they bring goodness to the world. You might hear them called a reformer or a perfectionist, and they constantly strive to improve. They want to improve themselves, everyone and everything around them. They are self-controlled, can be quick to judge, and spend lots of energy trying not to make a mistake. At times they can seem overly critical, but often they are their own worst critic. You might hear words like should, ought, must with type 1s. The second one is the helper, and they bring love to the world. They want to be liked, and they focus their attention on meeting the needs of others. They look for cues from others to interpret the degree to which they're appreciated. They value and are attracted to love. They're generous. They want to make the world a more loving place. They can become resentful and feel taken advantage of, and can be overly helpful.
See, I feel like there's a lot of nurses that are 2s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, I mean, I'm a type 2 as well. And one of the ways that 2s can grow is to spend time alone and to spend time meeting their needs. Oftentimes they push their own needs out of the way and give to other people. And then one day wake up lost and stuck and bitter. And so that's one of the growth paths for the 2, is to really take care of themselves, take care of their needs, and understand that they have needs and boundaries. Yeah.
That one sounds like a heart-centered.
It is, yes. So the 2, 3, and 4 are all heart-centered. And then all the 5, 6, and 7 are head, and the 8, 9, and 1 are body.
Okay, because 1 also sounded like head.
They have kind of the rumbling of the gut, and that anger just kind of under the surface. And many times the anger is directed at themselves, of just not wanting to make a mistake. The type 3, these are the effective or the achievers. They are attracted to and value efficiency and competence. They want to be productive. They want to make the world a more efficient place to live in. Very goal-centered. Working effectively is all about them. They have lots of physical energy. They are politically savvy. They say the United States is a type 3. When they don't have goals, they don't have energies. They're great multitaskers. In childhood, they were rewarded for achievement and completion of tasks. But they can be shapeshifters. They can morph into who they think they need to be achieving. The type 4 is also in the heart center. It is the individualist or the creative, and they bring creativity to the world. And their desire is to feel special and to have a really unique life. They can have painful emotions that are really powerful, and they sometimes have trouble being understood. They never feel truly understood, and something's missing in their life. But they have an amazing ability to be present to pain and to sit with people. Very artistic, deep thinkers, and this is a complex number. They need to be seen and feel special. Some studies say that they can change their emotions every 3 to 5 times an hour. So they can go from really low to really high to really low. So
it's difficult.
Yeah. I have a daughter that is a 4. Add teenager in on that, and So 5s, this is in the head center. They are the investigator, and they bring wisdom to the world. Their deepest desire is to know that they're capable. They gather and almost hoard information. They sometimes don't like emotions or the feelings of others. They have the ability, though, to see really good steps and sequences. They like time alone. They actually wake up, this is an interesting number because they wake up with a battery that's about 75% full. So every interaction that they have is kind of taken away from their energy bank. And so they have to be really careful. And so you might see them like leave the party early or leave, to get to retreat to make sure that they keep their energy up.
Sounds like an empath, just like absorbing one that absorbs.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The type 6, they bring loyalty and dutifulness. They're devoted. They're cooperative, trustworthy, but can be seen as anxious and fear-driven. They might also be called the questioner or the devil's advocate. They keep the world safe. So they are always kind of planning for worst case scenarios. They maybe sit to watch the door. They might have a plan to get out if they're at some place. But they have a strong need for control and to manage those worst case scenario. But they are the glue. This is the most common number, and they are the glue that holds us together. They keep us safe. They ask lots of questions, and they really need to know their role. But they're loyal, and they will stay and always be with you. Very loyal. The type 7s, they are called the enthusiasts, and they bring joy to the world. They love new possibilities. They want to experience them all. Many times they're the life of the party. They are always looking ahead to the future, what's going to come next. They don't really like to sit in their feelings. They don't like to experience pain. They're always moving on to the next thing. They are afraid of not having enough. They are great distractors. They're charming. They're funny. They have an ability to uplift people around them. Life is like a buffet for them. Beginnings are really fun. The middle is sticky, and the endings for type 7s can be terrible. They hate saying goodbye. Okay, and then the type 8, this is the challenger. Now we're in the gut. They bring power to the world. They pursue justice and truth, and they like to keep situations under control. They're not afraid of big decisions, and they will fight for the underdog. Justice is important to them. They can be confrontational and intimidating. sometimes referred to the boss. They don't mind somebody else being in charge. They just don't want you to tell them what to do. They like to have things straight facts. They don't want you to beat around the bush. This is, unfortunately, especially with women, is the most misunderstood and sometimes can be referred to a bad name, the women, because they're very strong. They're seldomly afraid, but the only thing that they are afraid of is vulnerability. So I'm sure that you know some 8s in your life. And then lastly, at the end, the type 9, this is the peacemaker, and they bring peace to the world, and they are stable, optimistic, supportive. They do not like conflict. They will do anything they can to get out of the conflict. Sometimes that can simplify problems. Very, very likable. They'll talk to anyone. What you see is what you get. They go along to get along. They stay out of your business. They can see 2 sides to a story, but when they do get angry, they can be passive aggressive. They may not want, or they want you to know that they're upset, but they don't want to do anything about it. So they may have trouble with procrastination, but they love nature and the simple pleasures. So that is a quick little tour of each type, and maybe give you some insight to yourself or maybe your parents or your siblings. But it just allows you, to see that other people see things differently than you. And that's the true beauty of it. So I do want to just touch really quick. You might hear wings. So wings are the numbers directly beside your number. So for example, if I'm a 3, or if I'm a type 4, a wing would be a 3 or a 5. So it can't be like across the way. Wings are numbers right next to your home type. So I always say that they kind of add seasoning to your type. And sometimes some of the study has said that you wing to one side the first part of your life, and then the second part of your life, you kind of go the other way. So it's kind of interesting. So again, this is you kind of just having to look at the different types and decide kind of maybe where you wing at. And then the last thing, the message I want to get across is discovering your type is really just the beginning of a really beautiful, complex, important journey of self-discovery. Learning your type is just the beginning, not the place that we end. And so I hope that is encouraging to you, and it really is a beautiful journey. And as nurses, we need that. We need to give that to ourselves. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you. That was a great run through of the different types. I'm sure we can identify at least some of those types in our lives.
Definitely.
Sometimes it can be like, wow, this person is so different from me, or they react so differently to this situation. Like they may have some other underlying, type that they tend towards. So it's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think about like our patients as well. If we start to listen to what our patients are saying, if you hear your patient saying, I feel, you can probably guess that they're maybe coming out of that heart center of intelligence. Or even your coworkers, you can kind of pick up maybe where they sit in the center of intelligence. And so that can allow us to communicate a little bit more effectively if we know that there may be a heart type versus, a body or an acting type. And so I think there is great benefit in just starting to learn to listen to our patients and our coworkers, using some of those words right here.
Yeah, and I also heard that, people that tend to say, oh, I hear you, then they may respond more when you say, oh, listen to this, or maybe they're auditory.
Yes.
So respond that way.
Yes. Listen. Yeah, exactly.
So cueing into that, and then especially really for anyone, like patients, the way they might understand information, education, and also people around you. What do you suggest for people that are maybe more heart-centered? How can they move more into other realms of their body? How can they tap into that?
Yeah. So for a heart center, I would step into my body, almost like step into my head and go, okay, so what are the facts here? What is my head telling me? What's my brain saying? Um, and stick to objective facts. You can look at sequencing a little bit better. Like what, don't go, oh, they don't like me. Okay, so what are the facts? Maybe they're going through something. Look at the objectivity of it. Maybe do a little bit more research than being so reactionary in the heart part of it. It's also going to your body and listening to and making, maybe even just acting on that. If it's something that you're him hawing around with, stepping into your body and making an action, maybe what you need to do. It may be with, pausing. Like if you go to your head, you could pause and you could maybe distance yourself a little bit and allow some time to process. And then just kind of listening to your gut, your intuition as you're in your gut.
Yeah. Like for me, I feel like my head, oh, I said, I feel like that's, I subconsciously say. But I feel like sometimes my mind, second guesses what my body is feeling. So I need to just tune into what my body was initially telling me.
Mhm.
Okay. But
Yeah. Yeah. And listening to like where you're keeping stress at, like if your, arm is starting to hurt or your back or something, like listening to your body and knowing that, okay, I need to stretch, I need to move, I need to do whatever to really, get into your body and start to feel, because the body keeps the score. Um, and it's really easy to ignore your body.
Mhm. And practices like yoga and
Yes.
mindful movement, they do help. They've helped me tap into what my body's feeling. That's
Hmm.
sensations. And tap into that instead of just ignoring it and just using it as a vehicle to get around the world.
Hmm. And I started a practice where I kind of almost do like a body scan, where I start at the top and like feel where the tension or the stress that I'm having and really kind of hone in on that and try to understand, like what's causing that and,
Mhm.
what's triggering me where I'm starting to feel that in that area.
Yeah, that's good to notice. And also like as things come up too throughout the day, if there's a certain stressor and you're like, oh, I feel this contraction in my chest or something like taking a moment to stop and feel that
Mhm.
and see what's
One of the practices that I like is we call it the now process. So just number one, noticing that you're triggered. Notice, like you had something with a coworker, just notice that you're triggered. Rather than reacting, you're going to notice it. And then you're just going to pause for a second and you're going to go, okay, what's my head say about this? What's my heart? How am I feeling about this? What does my body say? And you can do this very quickly, but it just allows you to give like a whole self response to that trigger rather than doing the thing that you always do, whether or not that's reacting or withdrawing or, whatever, but it allows you to kind of step into your whole body, your head, your heart, and your gut to make a really well whole self response.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the application. And that's the application of the Enneagram with your head, your heart, and your gut.
Mhm. Mhm. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I notice that sometimes I'm feeling a certain way that day. Maybe my mood has changed or my energy levels different, and there's like an event coming up that normally I'd be thrilled to go to, like all over, but just stepping back and just noticing what I'm feeling that moment. Like, is that really something that I want to put my time and energy levels towards or not? And so just stepping back into the body. And even
Mhm.
unfortunately, unfortunately or not, it could mean like canceling plans that have been made before, things like that. But listening
Yeah.
yourself, I think, is, ultimately better for, when you're talking to, if you were going to be, in the company of someone else and not feeling the best, it would be better just to cancel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just honoring that, honoring your body and your being aware of how you're feeling, as a type 2. I mean, I was so low self-aware that I just pushed through. I would know that was there, but I just keep going, and now it's allowed me to have some boundaries and just say, I'm not going to do that. It's not life giving to me. I'm going to say no to that.
Yeah. And I have that wing too. When I took the Enneagram like twice, wing 2 in there, but I can definitely sense that sometimes, like, oh, like maybe one moment, like I can totally give all of this, but then another moment I'm like, oh, I don't have anything left right now. I need to focus it in
Yeah.
out for a bit. So.
And I think what you're doing here is really, really good and really needed. So many nurses just give, and they don't take the time for themselves. They don't, they've taken care of kids and families and parents and patients and, kind of self-forgotten themselves. And so this just is a great tool to kind of come back to who they are.
And I think it gives permission to like, rest and retreat a bit when your body and mind needs it too. Yeah, there's lots of roles that nurses can be in, as a nurse or a parent. Always maybe in their mind expecting that they always need to be there to keep giving. But yeah, looking at this and giving permission to and needed to take a rest and recharge.
Yeah.
Well, how can people contact you to look further into their type?
Yeah. So I have a free typing guide specific to nurses. I also have just a regular one, but the nurse one is pretty cool, and I'm sure you can kind of see yourself. So you can find that at www.enneagramnurse.com. And then you can follow me on social media on Instagram and Facebook. And I've even started TikToking. My kids would make fun of me, but doing some work over there as well. So all Enneagram Nurse. So you can find me there.
I'll put it in the Facebook chat so you guys can connect with Janna, and also it's on our website, www.mindfulnurses.com. But thank you so much, Janna, for telling us about this wonderful tool for self-discovery, the Enneagram, and some insights into different personality types. And I think people watching kind of have a sense which ones they might gravitate towards naturally or fall into naturally. But it's also great to know that you're not like, stuck in a certain type. You can expand and grow.
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And for everyone, we have Wellness Wednesdays every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we bring you a different self-care practice or talk, just like the one we had today. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and take care and be well. Happy Wellness Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.